How about this for a classic question? How much should you aim to make in property to even make it worth your while starting in the first place? Because, property is a risk. Things can go wrong. They do go wrong occasionally. Well, guys, there's classic rules. 10% yield. Yield is annual rent divided by purchase price. It's a gross yield. So if you want to do a minimum 10% yield, then great, go for that property. So a typical example, if you're buying it for 120, you need to be getting £1,000 a month, as in £12,000 a year, because annual rent, 12,000 divided by purchase price, 120, as a percentage is 10%. If you're only getting £500 a month, which would be £6,000 a year, annual rent, £6,000 divided by purchase price, 120, as a percentage, £6,000 divided by 120 is only 5%. That's just not worth it. But don't let that put you off. First off, if you're finding you're only getting 5 or 6%, because the estate agents will tell you that that's normal. They'll tell you you're crazy to try and even get more. I'm telling you, don't even think about it until you've done 10%. Then say to yourself, do I need to do single lets? Can I do multi-lets? Can I split it into flats? Can I make it into service accommodation? There is always a way to make this happen. So that's for your rent. What about if you're doing a buy to sell? I love buy to sell. It puts really big lumps of cash into your bank account. Well, 20% markup after all costs. So let's just say you buy the property, you have to pay your stamp duty, your lawyers, your interest, your council tax, your cleaning bills, your renovation, the estate agent for selling, the lawyers for selling, all of that happy stuff. And the whole thing costs £200,000. You need to be selling it for 1.2 times your total cost. So you have to sell that bad boy for 240,000 quid, or it is just not worth it. So I want you to plan a 20% markup after all costs. And that does two things. Number one, it makes you a lot of money, and that's my goal. You're making good money. Number two, if things go wrong, like a roof or a builder or the recession, it gives you an insulation, a protection, and I think that's really important. And then there's the question of straightforward cash. What is, supermodel, I just don't get out of bed for less than 10,000 a day. What is the minimum amount of money you want to contribute your time to get back? And really, as in the early days, it was relatively small amounts of money. And as I got more and more experience, obviously my acceptable amount of money I'd make for the effort I put in went higher and higher, because as you become more successful, you have more options, you have more funding, you have more deals coming your way. So decide your minimum amount of money that you want to make in a property project. For me, even as a beginner, I would want at least 20 grand minimum for a buy to sell, really 30, 40 or 50 grand, just depending on your location, because otherwise, do you know what? You could have probably done a better deal elsewhere. So maybe you set yourself 30, 40, 50 grand and say, my minimum target is to make that amount of money or I wouldn't bother doing it. I hope that's useful in terms of guidelines. And yes, you can do return on capital employed and all the rest of it, but 10% yield, 20% markup, and minimum 30, 40, 50 grand for any kind of project. And I think you're in good, safe hands then. You should do really well with yourself. Okay, share it with a friend who needs it. Good luck to you. Subscribe. All the rest of it. We're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going out for Mexican food today in Barcelona. All right, if you want to know more about raising private finance, over here you can click on and download immediately my fundraising pack. It is stacked full of everything I use to raise millions of pounds. Well worth downloading now.